All right, so hello everybody. Thank you for joining today. My name is John MacMullen. I'm the Executive Director of the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub. And this is our November 2021 Collaboration Cafe webinar. For those of you who are perhaps new to the NSF Big Data Hubs world, just a quick note that we are operating in a 12-state region here in the Midwest, but we have partners across the country in the other geographic regions. And so if you are joining today or watching this video at some point in the future and would like to learn more about the Big Data Hubs, look for the one that is in your region and reach out to any of us to talk about opportunities where your interests may align with the work that we do. We're very focused on building partnerships and collaborations in the data science space, whether that's AI or other related areas. We have a number of priority areas that we focus on here in the Midwest that are driven by really ground up interest from our community in different disciplinary areas, but also we have some cross-cutting themes that really apply to any of these, including cyber infrastructure and data science education, which is part of the AI Institute's program as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. The Midwest Hub is a partnership of 6 universities in the Midwest. You'll see the logos on the bottom here. We're led out of NCSA at the University of Illinois, but we have our priority areas led across the region from our partner institutions. The series that we are running here is really driven by the interest of you all in the community for a way to bring together potential collaborators from across the region to respond to large-scale proposal opportunities and other opportunities to collaborate on research and practice. And so this series really is driven by that community demand for this kind of neutral space where we can talk about opportunities together. We are very focused on bringing in early career folks, as well as people from smaller institutions, including MSIs and tribal colleges here in the Midwest. And so we're trying to build the community from the ground up and make data science more open to everybody. Couple of quick notes. We will stop the recording after the solicitation breakdown and have a discussion about some more details about potential collaboration ideas. And we'll hear from a couple of prior awardees from the NSF AI Institute program about what they have learned from that process. And so in the future sessions, feel free to join this call live to engage in that discussion, but all of these recordings of the solicitations are available on our website, along with other resources for you to refer back to. That includes a lot of detail put together by my colleague Armgard Hawken here on our team about prior awards in the Midwest for each of the programs that we go through. So you'll find all of the past AI Institute awards up on our website, for example, relating to today's topic. I wanted to mention that there's a number of ways that you may be able to engage with the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub on your proposals going forward, whether that's AI Institutes or other programs. We provide a number of mechanisms to do that, including some basic communications and outreach work, but also we are open to more in-depth kinds of collaborations. And so feel free to reach out to us with any ideas that you would like to discuss around building data science community in the region. So let's get right into our topic for today, which is the AI Institutes program from NSF. This is the 3rd round of this program that they have offered. We'll talk about what some of the themes are that have cut across those 3 rounds of funding, but just a quick look at what this solicitation looks like in this round. We won't go through all the details today. There's a lot in there, but would definitely encourage you, if you're interested in proposing to this program, to really dig into some of the changes and details that they provide in the solicitation. One thing that stuck out to me right away in looking at this is that it is full institute proposals only. There are no planning grants in this round, unlike prior rounds. And so I don't know what that says about future rounds of this program, whether it says anything at all, I don't know. But in this particular case, there is not a track to do that sort of early stage development and then submit a full proposal at a later date. This is full institute proposals only in this round. These are cooperative agreements, again, in the sort of $16 to $20 million range over 4 to 5 years. We'll talk about the timeline in a minute, but these will not be awarded until 2023. So there is quite a bit of runway to both develop and then interact with NSF ahead of final awards there. They had their official webinar earlier this week, and we do have a link to that from our webpage. The video and slides are already available, so if you were not able to participate in that, you can check out that recording and the slides at your convenience. One of the things that we learned on that call was the number of awards that they plan on making, which is 7 for all the themes. We'll talk about what those themes are in a moment, but 7 awards, $16 to $20 million each is the breakdown there. So as always, this is led out of the size directorate at NSF, but there are multiple themes that have some disciplinary dimensions to them, and there are multiple partners from other agencies as well this time that we'll talk about in a moment. In terms of the timeline, they actually have given proposers more time in this round. Full proposals are not due until mid-May of next year, but they do have a pre-proposal mechanism this time, which has a relatively minimal requirement, but that is due in January. And so taking holidays into consideration, people proposing to this need to be on top of that schedule. One of the considerations there is that only proposals from pre-proposers will be accepted, and only proposals from the lead institution of that pre-proposal will be accepted. So definitely want to keep that in mind when you're thinking about structuring who the lead is, who the partners are, and who takes that forward after that. Pretty typical that there's only, you can only be on one proposal as a PI or senior personnel. There is a limited submission for institutions to 2 proposals per lead institution. So you could be a collaborator and be on multiple other proposals, but from the lead institution, you can only have a maximum of 2 proposals. All right, so what else is new here? I said no planning grants, pre-proposals. They did confirm that you need to have some kind of management team in place, some managing director, executive director, project manager kind of function that is distinct from the PIs, co-PIs, so someone who's leading the project full-time. Obviously, you're budgeting for that as well. There's an external advisory board, which I think is common across all 3 rounds of this program. But they are asking to have you budget for multiple site visits and multiple coordination activities with NSF and other institutes. So the budget is important to account for that engagement. Not sure how much travel people are going to be doing in the next couple of years, but it's important, I think, to at least get that in the budgets. All right, so they have a number of agency and industry partners in each round of these proposals, and they have differed in some cases over the past couple of rounds. This time that includes DHS, one of the directorates at Homeland Security, Department of Education for the Track 6 education proposals. NIFA has been a recurring partner with a lot of NSF digital ag programs, and so they are here as well. NIST is another partner, and DoD, one of the offices at DoD. IBM is the only industrial partner this time, but they do have specific areas of interest where they are looking to collaborate this time. All right, so here is the official timeline from NSF. This is from the webinar on Tuesday. So what you can see here is when you get to the January milestone for the pre-proposals, they're expecting to turn that back around to proposers by mid-February and give folks some feedback at that point. This is a non-binding review, so they're saying what they think about your pre-proposal and giving you a go, no-go sort of advisory decision, but they are not precluding folks from continuing on if they would like to, regardless of that outcome. And so then you have a couple more months before the full proposals are due, and then they get into the review process and actual site visits with the proposers later in the fall, with a final decision following that, and then the awards start in the middle of 23. So there is quite an extended timeline compared with the past two rounds. That obviously is going to drive some of proposers thinking about who to partner with, what's the scope of work, and how does that relate to other things that you may be planning in that same time period. All right, so what are the themes this time and how do they relate to the first two rounds? We've had two rounds of institutes awarded. I think we're at 18 institutes that have been awarded so far. There's a couple of themes that have recurred at least two times. So ag and food have occurred twice so far in the current round and in round one. And trustworthy AI as a theme has been in two as well. AI augmented learning is the one that has occurred in all three. So that tells me that is pretty important to NSF. But we can see some other things emerging here in round three as well. And I've got the partner agencies and institutions noted here in blue for you. So we'll come back to this slide when we get into our discussion and talk about where we may see some gaps in the Midwest in particular, or in other parts of the country where there may be opportunities for folks to partner in round three here. But that's sort of the landscape of where we are in terms of the overall themes. NSF has been great in this particular program about telling us exactly what they want, giving a lot of detail in the solicitation around what these themes mean to them, how those relate to their portfolio of programs and awards. And so I feel like that's a lot of good guidance that they are giving proposers about what it is they're looking for. So always advise folks to pay close attention to that. On the webinar the other day, they gave some additional context. I've got a couple of slides that I've copied in here from that. And so, getting a sense of what exactly they're looking for, I think is very helpful. Whenever a funder says it is critical that we want to see something, I think that's something you really need to pay attention to here. So looking for those throughout the solicitation, I would advise you to look at. So I think one of those key areas is how does the research that folks are doing relate to practice? How do we translate between those two areas? How do we learn from folks out in the world who are using AI, and how does that inform research, and vice versa? How does the research drive practice as well? They've talked about things like use cases and other educational and practice pieces of this, and that seems very important to them. This is another slide from the NSF webinar that gets into their vision of the feedback between research and practice as well. Workforce development and education seems to be a theme across a lot of their solicitations in the past few years. And so they have called that out in their webinar as well, about different kinds of educational engagement. There's a particular theme in this round on education with a couple different tracks, but regardless of the theme, that educational component has been very strong in all three rounds at this point. All right, and then finally, they're very helpful in telling us how they will be evaluating proposals, both in the typical NSF guidelines, but also to this particular solicitation. They have put in a number of additional criteria that the panels will be reviewing. So again, they're telling you what they want up front, and it's important to keep this in mind as you're building a proposal, building a team to do this work. All right, so that's sort of my breakdown of the solicitation. Anybody on the call, have you spent some time with this solicitation, and do you have other things that you want to add at this point before we move to the discussion phase? All right, so we'll switch to that momentarily. I'll just say for those watching the recording, thank you for tuning in, and we'd love to have you join in person in the next round, which is coming up in mid-January. That will be focused on the NIH research experience in genomic research, focused on data science workforce development. That will be co-led by Ivo Dinoff from the University of Michigan. And we'll be talking about that particular solicitation and opportunities in the Midwest for folks to collaborate on that. So please come back and join us for that call. And thanks for watching the video today.